everyone, and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. I hope y'all are enjoying this beautifully warm weather. I hope you are hydrating and staying cool. I am going to remember this week in January and in February. I am in heaven right now. I'm sorry if a lot of you all are like, woof, the heat. I am so loving this. Oh my goodness. I cannot get enough heat. I mean, think about it. Honestly, I ain't really supposed to be in this hemisphere. I mean, if you think about it, this is just where the boats dropped us off at. I'm just joking, y'all. Come on, lighten up. Let's have some fun. All right, let's get into the news. Let's see what's going on this week. There's some good stuff, too, I want to highlight. The Indiana Capitol Chronicle reports Indiana lawmakers could further dilute state wetland protections following Supreme Court decision. The U.S. Supreme Court ruling from earlier this year will effectively remove federal protections for most of Indiana's wetlands and enable Hoosier lawmakers to repeal already weakened state protections for those areas. The High Court ruled in May that federal protections for wetlands under the Clean Water Act only apply to wetlands with a continuous surface connection to federally protected waterways that make them indistinguishable from those waters. The ruling will allow the state to further strip away regulations that currently keep developers from repurposing wetlands for commercial use. Indiana is home to more than 800,000 acres of wetlands, equal to about 3.5% of the state's geography. Although 80% of the Indiana's wetlands had federal protection, that is expected to drop to 20% following SCOTUS's ruling. Indra Frank, director of the Environmental Health and Water Policy for the Hoosier Environmental Council, said the decision will significantly impact flooding and drinking water in Indiana. Guys, I don't know if you've heard of those once in 100-year floods happening in some of our small towns every 5 or 6 years. Those things are happening because we have people who call themselves conservatives who don't want to conserve the environment. When we destroy our wetlands, we cause a whole host of problems. And these folks are going to do this for profit reasons, but it's going to end up costing Hoosiers when they have to file those insurance claims. And then the insurance company says, oh, wait, you don't have flood insurance. Or then you have to go get flood insurance, which is significantly higher than regular homeowners insurance. So, guys, I think we ought to watch what happens in the State House this next session, because I have a feeling that with this deregulation happening, we are going to see continued erosion of our wetlands. And we already know that we're in this crazy environmental crisis. Some of y'all can't even handle this July 80-degree weather. But once we remove our wetlands, it's going to remove a lot of the barriers that were protecting our communities from floodwaters and protect our drinking water. So talk to your people. Make sure they don't do any more crazy stuff. All right. So I saw something that made me think, self-hate is real. And I feel sorry for this man because he don't even like himself. And he wants to be the governor of Indiana. Republican gubernatorial candidate Curtis Hill says he'd get rid of Indiana's Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunity if elected, calling it pandering and a drain on resources in a Monday news conference. Hill also said he wanted to eliminate all such state-funded programs, although this particular office is funded by CenterPoint Energy's charitable arm. His campaign didn't respond to a request for other examples. Unnecessary government offices that exist only to pander to identity politics agenda and that do not lead to tangible positive outcomes are a drain on Hoosiers and need to be ended, said Hill, who would be Indiana's first black governor. He ain't going to, though. He's not. Don't worry about it. As governor, I will run a lean but effective administration. On Monday, Hill promised to personally spearhead a series of bridge forums with expert community members, emphasizing an unfettered and open civil discourse with a solutions-oriented focus. He recently told the Capitol Chronicle that he believed in the need for healthy conversations about race, although he said it had become a weaponized issue. Bruh. There's nothing more weaponized about racial issues than Emmett Till, George Floyd, Sandra Bland, Britain. I mean, good Lord, bruh. Find your black card and pull it out because you need it. I can't believe this man wants to be governor so bad that he would just literally forget that he's a black man and thinks that, everything is cool and that we don't need to have some type of diversity and opportunity office, diversity inclusion opportunity office, when the vast majority of the leaders are white folk. And I talked about this last week, where we have a tendency to, gravitate toward people who are more like us because that's what we're comfortable with. We need to get uncomfortable. We need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But the idea that the brother wants to get rid of the diversity and inclusion and opportunity is the ultimate in pandering. He wants to accuse this office of being a pandering office, saying that you don't want more people like you to have opportunities. I'm going to put you over there with Justice Thomas, and that's just it, and that's all. All y'all fake. It's really about you're fine, you're okay, damn the rest of us, and that ain't cool. You're supposed to leave the ladder down. And he's not doing that. So I know I won't be voting for him, and he won't win the primary, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I don't know. Him, Braun, they all crap, but we'll see what happens. Speaking of Republican infighting, because, that was, Holcomb's office, and he started it in 2020. But speaking of Republican infighting, Representative Jim Banks has signaled he will not support former Vice President and Indiana Governor Mike Pence's bid for president. His comments came during an interview with News 8's government reporter Garrett Berquist for Sunday's All Indiana Politics. Banks was in the state Senate when Pence was governor, but he's continued to be one of former President Donald Trump's most vocal and loyal supporters. Bootlicker. Banks said, "I've known Mike Pence for a long time. I respect him and respect what he's done for our state and our country. I fully support the Orange Menace, Donald Trump." He didn't say that. I said it. Donald Trump for president, and believe he's the front runner for a lot of reasons. But the biggest reason is he's a fighter for America. I fully expect him to be the Republican nominee and believe that he will beat Joe Biden in the November election in 2024. He has my full support. Okay, so that statement in of itself should let you know you need to be supporting the Democratic candidate that is running in Congressional District 3 to replace Jim Banks. And you need to find one of those Democrats that are running for the United States Senate and support them in the primary and in the general election so that Jim Banks does not become a U.S. Senator because he's an idiot. I mean, oh my God. You mean to tell me you'd rather support somebody that's got like 3 indictments and another one on the way? He says he's looking out for the country. The Orange Menace is not looking out for anybody but himself, padding his pockets, duping his supporters out of all their money. The money that he's been raising has been going to cover his legal expenses. My God, why should we have him lead anything? He can't leave nobody out of a wet paper bag. I'm just saying. And Jim Banks being his bootlicker, his behind kisser, I'm surprised he doesn't have like a knee pad line, Jim Banks knee pad line, for all that booty kissing he doing. But guys, I do think it's kind of funny. I think Mike Pence is a sucker too. I think pretty much most Republicans, not all, but I think most Republicans are pretty sad. And this just shows you why Jim Banks is not a leader. He's a clown. He's soft. He has no backbone. He doesn't stand for anything other than patting his own pockets like his mentor, Donald Trump. And then finally, some good news, because that's what we do as Democrats. We always bring good news to the mix. President Joe Biden intends to nominate Joshua Coulter, a federal magistrate judge from northern Indiana, to the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, the White House announced on Thursday. Coulter, who's based in Hammond, has been a magistrate judge in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Indiana since 2019. He previously was an assistant U.S. attorney for the same district from 2007 to 2018, and he was the lead attorney for national security there from 2015 to 2018. The Seventh Circuit covers cases from Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Yay! We get to Democrats are appointing some judges. I know we've lost that branch of our government for a decade because of how many justices the Orange Menace was able to assign and appoint, even some people who were barely out of law school, just passed the bar and had never tried a case, argued a case, litigated a case, anything. So now we're seeing that our president is actually nominating some people. So, they may be fair judges. And he's been doing this for a long time. He's put in his work. I'm excited that it's somebody from Indiana that'll sit on that circuit court. He has a great feel for the area. So this is really, really a good thing. See, that's the difference between us and them. We do positive stuff. We're trying to make America better. I don't know what they're trying to do. Oh, they're into authoritarianism. My bad. Because they want to stop you from driving across lines to seek medical care. They don't want you to get married. They don't even want you to say gay. But we say it. We don't care. You can't stop us. So I say vote for D's, vote for blue. And as always, let's hear from my amazing sponsor, Bohm's Unique Boutique. Today's show is brought to you by Bohm's Unique Boutique. Click on the QR code. And for all Turn Left listeners, you can get a 10% discount on your order by using the code Democrat. Be sure to visit www.bohmsuniqueboutique.com. I do love Bohm's Unique Boutique. And as always, guys, do you need digital content? Reach out to Black Pearl IT Solutions and Black Pearl Studios. I'm telling you, I'm super affordable because I want to help elect Democrats. And I know a lot of you guys don't have a whole lot of money, but you still need that digital content. So reach out to me. I can help you out. We can get it on the schedule. And let's get you sharing your information out there to the public. All right. Scan the QR code and let's make a deal and we can make it happen. All right. That's my rant. Those are my ads. And I'm really excited because one of the things that I try to do with Turn Left is to make sure that I hit all 4 corners, 5 corners, 8 corners, however many corners of our beautiful state, all 92 counties. And I get excited when I get to head north. I love going north. Not just the region, y'all. Not just the region. We're going up to Michigan City today. Y'all give it up to my guest, my solo guest today, running for City County Council, 1st Ward, Greg Coulter. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dana. It's exciting to be here.
It's exciting to have you. It's a pleasure to meet you. I tell you what, you made me smile and you made an old lady feel good when you said, I'm not going to ever miss your show again. Thank you for that. That has made my day.
No problem. It was easy because a week or 2 ago, so I haven't missed one yet. So
I love it. I love it. All right. So tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm Greg Coulter. I live in Michigan City. So I'm about 500 feet from Lake Michigan. You can't get much further north than that. When it's not hazy from Canadian wildfires, you can see Michigan and Chicago from Michigan City. So it's pretty far north. And we have a lot of fun here. So my family's been in Indiana for 8 generations. We got some land in like 1832. And we've been here ever since on the same farm and all that jazz.
The same farm?
Yeah. And we grow pumpkins and we're like, if you're up in northern Indiana, people will recognize us for the pumpkins.
Oh, I didn't know. That's so cool.
Cool. It's a weird thing to be like kind of locally famous for or recognized for. Yeah. There was one time I was undergrad and talking to a professor and he's like, oh, I guess pumpkins have to grow on farms and people farm them.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was Russian. So, I mean, everybody else has been to a pumpkin farm. So it's a weird way to grow up living on a pumpkin farm. So it's pretty cool. And then other relevant things about me. I moved around a lot in my 20s. So I did a year in Sweden. That was really cool. Wouldn't trade that for anything. One thing that I think about when I think about Sweden is like we have all that conversation about like bathroom laws, and, like some different bathrooms. In Sweden, they just have like a line of water closets, so like you're always in your own bathroom.
Nice.
Cool. It's cool. They've got it figured out. I think like from the beginning.
Well, the bathroom thing isn't about trans people. It's about
No.
predatory white males or predatory males, because I'm not gonna say white males, predatory males who want to pretend they're something that they're not to molest people. That's not trans people.
Yep. When conservatives talk about it, they make it sound like this deceptive thing that somebody's just going to like decide one day that they're going to go spy on women in a bathroom. And that's not what that is.
No. And that's a lot of work to go through to spy on women, right?
Yeah.
Especially when all you got to do is go to Pornhub.
Yeah. Somebody needs to show them how to look up porn.
So they can leave regular people alone.
Speaking of Pornhub, the other city I lived in abroad was Montreal, which is where Pornhub's from.
Okay.
Yeah, fun facts about that. So that was really cool. I did a graduate degree there because my undergrad was in history. So then I followed it up with a graduate degree in history.
Oh.
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved Montreal.
Well, where'd you go to undergrad?
Ball State.
Ball State. Okay. And then, so what? Okay, wait, stop. Did you intentionally want to go to Montreal?
So the summer I was doing graduate applications, or maybe a little before. This was 15 years ago. I don't remember. Somebody had mentioned that was somewhere that they had gone to school, and I just kind of threw it on my list of places to apply. It was like, it's the same price everywhere. But I probably saved a lot of money going to Canada.
Really?
I paid $250 in rent for one bedroom.
What year?
And I was Canadian or American. This was 2016.
Oh my God, that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, to live in a city of like, I think it's about the same size as Indianapolis, like 800,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, I loved Montreal. It was cool. Just a lot of French speakers and a lot of English speakers, and you just kind of used whichever one you needed to use at the time. And yeah, it was cool. There was one time that I was at a karaoke night, and like French undergrad students are kind of strange, and like they decided they would sing Noel, the Christmas song. So obviously all in French, but then afterwards I got the whole bar to chant Jesus. So that's always been a bit of a major accomplishment for me, is getting an entire bar to chant Jesus, Jesus.
Okay, so that means that you have influence.
I have influence. Yeah, that's the thing. Montreal was really cool. I followed it up with a year in Toronto, working at a poutine place called Poutini's House of Poutine.
What is that? What?
You've had poutine before, right?
No. What is it?
The only poutine I've had in Indianapolis was at Sun King, and they didn't do it right.
Oh, it's a beer.
No, it's French fries with gravy and curds.
Oh.
Yeah, and I can't remember. We might get to see my cat in a second.
That's okay. We like cats.
I did library school online, and there were a lot of cats walking across screens in library school. You can imagine. But yeah, poutine. So yeah, I have strong feelings about poutine. I think part of the reason that I moved back to Montreal, moved back to Michigan City, and really put down some roots was because Shoreline, one of the brewers here, my cat is in my light, has the best poutine outside of Canada. So I will rant about that. I
never heard of poutine.
Yeah, it's got to be like a good brown gravy. There was one place that did like a breakfast gravy, like a whole milk breakfast gravy. That was the wrong way to do it. I've got very strong opinions about poutine.
But you know what? That's what traveling does, though. It allows you to like experience things and have a different perspective and a broader world view. That's amazing that you've been able to do all of that as a young person. Did your parents encourage you to travel?
For the most part, I'd say so. I mean, they never really discouraged it. I think my mom would have liked it if I was closer to home. But the thing that she always liked when I was in Sweden or Canada is that she would always come for Mother's Day.
Aww.
So then she'd have somewhere to go for Mother's Day, and like she gets to go visit her kids somewhere cool rather than, I mean, it's nice to see your parents all the time, but it's an opportunity for them to come visit. So they liked that.
So what is your biggest takeaway from being an international traveler?
My biggest takeaway from being an international traveler. The language is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Okay.
So like in Canada, in Sweden, there's more fluent English speakers in Canada than there in Sweden. Excuse me, I'm not getting these facts straight. Than there are in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But like the thing to take away from that is that like so much of the world has learned to speak English because of the British Empire.
Yeah.
And that the Americans have followed that up.
Yeah.
But it's a good lingua franca. I mean, if you look at like the EU,
Mm-hmm.
where they don't even have an English speaking nation in it anymore, but they're still all speaking English.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like
Like-
that when I went to Germany. So I had my first trip to Europe a couple weeks ago, or at the beginning of the month, and
cool.
I was so grateful that they spoke better English than I did German. Otherwise, it'd have been a mess. But it was like everybody spoke English, and it was so pleasing. Like, and they were so accommodating. As long as you were, you didn't talk too fast, they got you. Or if you repeated it and didn't sound condescending, they were fine. But they still spoke better English than I did German.
Yeah. There was one time I was trying to order, because I studied a lot of Swedish when I was there. And I was trying to order a pizza in Swedish, and like people did a pretty normal job of just being like, "Oh, great, you have a good accent for an American." Always for an American.
Yeah. Because they know that we don't learn, we don't think that we should learn more than one language.
Yeah. And if you don't learn like the phonetics of how to get your mouth in the right order really early, then it's hard to pick up.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah. So I was ordering this pizza in Swedish, and the buddy I was with is like, "No, you were saying that perfectly right," but the guy that was taking the order just wasn't. But yeah, everybody's pretty agreeable about just speaking English. But like the takeaway from that isn't that everybody's pretty agreeable speaking English, but just like a bit of humility. Like going out into the world, that other people had to go through this process of learning a second language, so that like in Sweden they could access the internet, or like in Quebec. I was taking a Quebec history class early on. There's two parts to this. Don't let me forget the second part. I was taking a Quebec history class early on and just learning about how like that language colonization, how the English people moved in after the French people moved in, after the Algonquin speaking people moved in, and then the Haudenosaunee. So like all those layers of colonization. And like for the Haudenosaunee outside of Montreal, they all spoke English and refused to learn French because French is the language of the colonizer. Kind of bizarre to think about because I mean English is the language of the colonizer, but in their story and narrative, that's the order that goes in.
Wow, interesting.
You get to like the 1960s, and for a lot of people, if you were a French-speaking person in Montreal or or Quebec, there was like a 90% chance that you had to learn English to talk to your boss. And that's colonialism. That's something to figure out. So they figured it out and they put in their language protections, and they're still bickering about it.
Yeah. What's part two?
Part two, thank you. Is that I had a friend that was taking, so I'm in the Quebec history class, and then I made a friend early on who was taking his American studies class. One day he's like, "Oh my gosh, you're from Indiana. That is the Osier state." And what? I just like fell over laughing. The way he pronounced Hoosier in French.
It actually sounds better.
It does. La tête d'Osier. I think it's cool.
Osier, I like that. So what, did you always have a love of history?
I'd say so. And a love of languages too. And just kind of like the idea, growing up on a farm, I think it's easy to fall in love with the idea of kind of getting out for a minute.
Okay.
So a big part of why I ended up getting a master's degree in history and then coming back to rural Indiana is that I kind of figured if I was going to live in rural Indiana, I could get out for a minute.
Yeah.
And do some international stuff in Montreal and Sweden for a year.
Yeah.
And come back and just have like a better understanding of the world and my spot in it.
I love it. I'm a novice when it comes to history, but I enjoy it because I enjoy like learning about the human behavior and the human interaction and how humans socialize with each other. Obviously, there's the matriarchy, I mean the all the kingdoms and monarchies and
There
all
we
that.
go. Okay.
Ooh, I couldn't get that out. All of that stuff. But what I enjoy like learning about how each civilization existed depending on where they were, the climate they were in. And I always found it interesting, like when you read Western history from the Western point of view, when they visited places like any of the regions on the largest continent, or when they went to India, or when they went to Central and South America, they always talked about how these folks seemed uncivilized because they didn't have on a lot of clothes. But it was like they round the equator. They ain't supposed to be. Y'all closer to the Arctic Circle. What is wrong with you people? That was just one of the things that always like annoyed me when you read it. It's like, didn't you understand they're hot?
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of learning about history?
So the master's degree I ended up writing a thesis for was about the human migration around the Atlantic in like the 1700s.
Ooh.
So it wasn't just British people moving to North America, or British people forcing Africans to move to North America. There was also like going to the Caribbean, and then up from the Caribbean to Canada, and just a whole mess around. But then when you look at it from contemporary eyes, they've got that mindset that you're kind of sharing, is that people get stuck in their ways and they develop habits. Mm-hmm. Like if you are living in England and you're eating a lot of cabbage because that's what grows well in a cloudy, like cold environment, it's just a lot of cabbage. So they're eating their cabbage. But then you've got, it's like these humoral zones, like the being comfortable where you're at is a lot of how it worked out of what I was studying. So the thesis I wrote was a man who was enslaved in Martinique, who was then taken by his captors to Quebec to be the executioner. And he was really depressed up in Quebec because, he's one of like 12 black guys.
Right.
But like the rest of them aren't having a great time either. They're all held in bondage. And the reason that he was removed from Martinique was because he had to try to escape a few times. So the first time he escapes, they like chop off your ear and like make a knob in it. And then the second time they hobbled him. And if you're not familiar with mercy, that's where they
chop off your foot.
They were cutting his Achilles tendon or hamstring.
Oh.
Is the way they hobbled him. Because if you put yourself in, like, it's disgusting to put yourself in like the position of somebody owning another person.
Right.
That they're trying to maintain their investment.
Yeah, because they were property.
Hobbling somebody, and then the third time he escaped, that punishment is execution. But then also we're back in like the 1700s, and we're thinking about we're putting on our good Catholic hats, and they're good Catholics, so they needed somebody to be the executioner in Quebec. So this guy who wasn't going to have anybody inherit property from him, or somebody that was already supposed to be executed, is kind of how they found their next executioner.
Oh, geez.
So they saved him from the execution block, moved him to Quebec. So he's still alive. So that's a blessing. But he's an executioner.
Yeah. So he's dying inside.
Yeah. And the first two people he has to execute are also enslaved people.
So when you hear, Governor DeSantis and the Florida school superintendents talk about how they want to reframe and change our history to talk about the things that, Black folks benefited from, how does that make you feel?
It's really scary because like they don't do that on a whim. They're looking at our history and they're finding ways to sterilize it and make it so that the only thing we learn in history class is that Abraham Lincoln couldn't tell a lie, or George Washington couldn't tell a lie. Abraham Lincoln walked how many miles to return 16 cents?
I don't know. He was Honest Abe.
Yeah, Honest Abe. Yeah. And it's like, no, there's a lot more history to talk about. Like there's the whole thing about like slave rape.
Yeah.
And like the idea that some of these enslaved women were used as wet nurses.
Yeah.
That was one of those things that really messed me up, is like the idea that
they were literally nursing the little white babies. Yes. And I think the hardest part, other than obviously the obvious torture, right? The obvious stealing and plundering of one's past, present, and future, the separation of families. Like, can you, that to me, there's nothing really crueler the whole thing, right? The whole thing is cruel, but I'm going to have you essentially become a breeder. And as much as they are insisting that women carry babies, whether they're going to be born alive or not, now that they want to like pretend like that women didn't feel that trauma every time they gave birth to a child, or that a father didn't feel that trauma having their child born, and then they don't know where they are ever again. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things. There's so many things about that. But again, I remember listening to a podcast that said, by the time we start seeing the backlash from progress, society's already moved toward the progress. And so even though the backlash is happening, we've already moved forward. So they're doing the thing, but we're like, I mean, here you are, a young, person who you're not a person of color, are you?
No.
Okay. So, and here you are, you have that empathy and that understanding, and think of how many young people who are like you, who are like, y'all are stupid. And that's what they're trying to avoid, but it's too late. It's already happened. And now you're running for office.
And a lot of that empathy comes from learning history.
Yes. So
taking that out and denying kids that chance to learn about like what it meant to be a person 200 years ago. That's a lot of where I learned a lot of empathy. And like, if they're not getting that, then they're not going to learn empathy. I mean, it's critical thinking, but there's also a lot of empathy that comes from studying history.
I love it. I love it. Indiana's own Dana Black. We are talking to Michigan City Council candidate for the First Ward, Greg Coulter. Listen, guys, if you are liking what he's talking about, because I'm already into him, because we on the same love language right now, click on his ActBlue donate link. Donate to his campaign, because every dollar will help. Whether it's $5, $10, $15, every dollar helps him. He may need to buy yard signs. He may need to purchase some advertising, whatever it is, whatever you can donate. He may just need to buy water for his volunteers, right? Whatever it is, could you donate to his campaign? Click on that ActBlue link so he can run a successful campaign. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Tell us why you got involved in politics and why you were running for office.
So yeah, the reason I got involved in politics, there's two or three things to talk about there. One is just that I was in Canada when Donald Trump was getting elected. And it was so bizarre, like being at a party or something. And everybody in the room is like, Greg, what is going on in America? And it was 2016. And this was around the time, and I can't believe this is still a thing that actually happened in our lives, is that Donald Trump is running for office. The Huffington Post said that anything related to Donald Trump is going to go in the entertainment section and not the politics section. Huh. And I think that's the last day I ever heard of the Huffington Post, which I think is
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ariana Huffington sold it too, and I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she sold it.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it was weird being in Canada and having to explain American politics. And it just kind of gave me that feeling that I needed to bloom where I'm planted and not exactly try to make living in Canada work, but to go back to rural Indiana, because the more that we scare queer people out of living in rural places, the fewer queer people there are in rural places. Mm-hmm. And then they can make up these things about these deceptive queer people trying to sneak into bathrooms to peek under stalls.
Hello.
Yeah. I mean, so that was a big thing that made me want to move back and get back to Indiana, is just to be a queer person and to put a professional face forward and like make a recognizable person that wasn't some monster that people recognize from the media, but to actually be somebody that people could recognize as like Greg's a queer person that is doing good work. So I got back, I started doing some good work. I was at the library for a bit. Helping I was like teen librarian.
Okay.
So that gave me a really interesting insight into how teens are living their lives and what vaping is. So this, that, and some other things got me to a point where I knew I wanted to be in politics at some point. I threw my hat in the ring this year and won my primary. So
How many were in the primary? I tried to keep up with as many as I could.
two. So it was me and this other guy.
Okay. Oh, congratulations then.
Thank you. Thank you. It's interesting, but it's me and this other guy. And then in the general election, I've got a Republican and an independent.
Oh, it's a three-way split.
Yeah.
That'll be
It's a
interesting.
very blue town, but I'm excited.
Well, yeah, because they're going to split their votes. Because more than likely the independent is a Republican, because or well, I don't know. I don't know who the independent is, so I know they're not on Act Blue.
Yep, that's true. Yeah.
And so, I mean, so was coming out for you or running as an out person something that you were worried about at any time?
It hasn't been an issue. Michigan City is pretty progressive.
Okay.
Racially, I think we're about 50%, maybe 40, 60 black and white. And close enough to Chicago that it's that we've got a good appreciation for diversity up here. Yeah, so it hasn't been an issue running as an LGBTQ person. And it was never really an issue coming out either. I think it was because I was just in a small town where everybody kind of recognized my family. There were a couple people that would try to make a thing out of it, and then everyone in the class would just kind of gang up on them and be like, "We aren't mean to Greg." And that's what I love about LaPorte County is we help take care of each other.
Yeah, I love it. And see that's the whole point that I was making. By the time the backlash comes, the society has progressed already. So if this is you're talking about when you were a young person, we're not going to let anybody pick on Greg. They know Greg, so they are not going to be weirded out by gay people.
Yeah,
So, you see what I'm saying? So yeah. That's why the backlash is coming, because they're like, oh shoot, people like gay people. Oh.
Yeah. When I was the teen librarian, none of them were coming up to me like, Greg, I had the worst day because everyone's bullying me about being queer.
Yeah.
It's like coming up to me about like, oh, I got a vaping violation. I got none of these kids were having a hard time being LGBTQ middle schoolers.
I love it. I love
cool.
it.
It's exciting.
I love it. And so, you know, you looked at the books, you saw what was happening. You were motivated by 2016. Why council? Why city council?
Oh, Michigan City is the coolest city I've ever been to. And I've been to a few different places, and like, there's just a lot of low hanging fruit that we can do on city council, working with Mayor Angie. I'm so excited for Mayor Angie. I think that's half of why I'm running, is just to help her succeed even more. She's this incredible woman. She's going to be Michigan City's first black mayor.
Okay.
And this is a town that has a significant black population. It's got a significant female population. It's weird to say. But we're going to have our first female black mayor, and she is going to rock it.
Okay.
She is the most qualified person I've ever seen run for office, and is going to be an incredible mayor. She's got everything that she wants to do lined up, all sorts of projects to help people with their having affordable housing, having good jobs, and having ways to get to those jobs.
Okay.
And that's it's great to see somebody with a good finger on the pulse. And I'm excited to work with her. So having her as a bit of a mentor has been great.
Ooh, come on, mentor.
So, yeah. So being up on Lake Michigan and seeing what they do in Michigan with their coastal towns and what we do in Indiana with our coastal towns, I think there's just a little bit of work we can do on the lakefront.
Yeah.
So one of my big things is just figuring out how to make the most out of the tourism that we have available. Michigan City has so much going on for it. So in 2019, the National Lakeshore was made a national park.
Yep.
Indiana's only national park.
Yep.
So I can see a national park out my window.
Yep.
You wouldn't know it walking around town and think that there's a national park outside our door. So capitalizing on that. But then we've also got the double tracking project, where right now, it's like it's 2 hours to get on public transportation to Chicago. But once I finish the project, it's going to be 67 minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's gonna make a lot of sense. You're going to be able to and from Chicago.
Yep, you're going to attract people to leave Chicago and come live in Michigan City. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, it's going to be so cool. And then the coal generating plant is coming down.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, there's lots of cool things going on in Michigan City, and like, it's things you need to be very forward thinking about. And a 32-year-old is going to be more forward thinking than someone in their late 50s, somebody in their 70s.
Watch yourself. I'm 53, bro.
I would
I'm
never.
teasing. I knew. Well, once you said 32, I was like, he's gonna say somebody in the 50s. So I was ready for you.
But
You're
like,
right. But you're right. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, you've got your tool bag of tricks, and it's worked for the last 30 years, and I've got a different tool bag.
yeah. Well, I'll be honest. One of the things that actually has me excited is that you recognize as a city councilor, you need to work in concert with the mayor, and you've already said I want to help her. I think that is critical. What do you guys have a 9-member council, second class city?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, all of those, those allyships that are created between the offices will help move, move things along. And I think that is, I think that is like the coolest answer I have ever heard of why people are running for office. A lot of people talk about how they want to fix a thing, but you said, I want to help somebody else fix a thing. And that's what I want to be, the support. And I can do that by voting for ordinances and things. That is like one of the best answers I have ever heard.
Yeah, we all need to pull together. Yeah. So I get back from Canada and I'm watching these. I mean, we all survived the pandemic. Not all survived. That's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Everyone here has survived the pandemic. And we saw what good government looked like. Mm-hmm. And we saw a lot of really bad governments and then just some infighting. In our county government, we were really lucky to have some incredible county commissioners who were voted off. And now we've got 3 bickering Republicans who are just at each other's throats all the time, not getting anything done and just arguing about everything. And I don't want that in Michigan City. I want Michigan City to have a team that is working together to get that low-hanging fruit that Mayor Angie talks about and get people's quality of life up and working together to improve people's lives, rather than just bickering about who's.
I love that. I love that. So, you win the election in November. You start to craft and draft your ordinances because, see, you like history, so you know how to read. And so
that's true,
right? I know that Mayor Angie has her list of priorities, but what are your 3 main priorities as council? I know you want to help her, but I'm certain you sound like a guy that has his own way of thinking and his own way of saying things. So yes, helping her is cool, but what do you got?
Helping her is cool, but there is stuff I got. Yeah. But right off the top is that affordable housing. I'm a renter here in Michigan City. 50% of Michigan City's renters too.
50%.
Yeah, it's up there. So, yeah. So, number one, just being a voice for those guys too. But I'd like to be able to buy a house here one day.
Okay.
And when we've got all those up and coming things going on for Michigan City, you can imagine what that's done for our housing market.
Yeah. It's going up.
Affordable housing. I'd like to buy a house here too.
Okay.
Affordable housing. Crime is the big one. We've had a lot of an increase in shootings. So figuring out how to use technology to be better prepared to respond to accidents there.
Okay.
For example, last year on the beach, I was out hanging out with my sister, and there was a shooting about 500 feet away on the beach. Mm-hmm. And everybody was just scrambling. The family behind us was a young couple with a couple infants. Mm-hmm. And they have no idea what to do because they're trying to hold their kids because there's just a shooting 500 feet away. And so my sister and I just help cleaning up their stuff and say like, hey, we'll carry this over the dune for you. If you guys don't want to be down here, don't be down here.
Right.
And that shouldn't happen on the beach.
No, it shouldn't.
Because we had the shot spotter. I might be confusing stories. So fast forward to a couple months ago, there was another shooting outside of a daycare, outside of a worker's house. So a bullet went through a daycare. But within an hour, because of the shot spotter cameras, they were able to make an arrest for that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But the beach, not so much.
We had that on the beach. Yeah, because that's just the difference in timing.
Right.
Is that was a year ago, and the shot spotters were installed January-ish, maybe being installed. So using technology and increasing our police force, getting more social workers. We just hired our first social worker.
What? Your first social worker?
It's a small town. It's a police force of 80. But thank you. I also feel like there could be 2.
Well, I mean, I'm a little. What's the population up there?
Michigan City
40,
is
50,000?
38 comes to mind.
Okay,
I feel like I
38.
should have be able to shoot from the hip with that. But
Okay, but so only one social worker on the law enforcement agency. I'm certain, the state has their people up there, but I mean, that's 38,000 people who are not being served in a way that is beneficial to their mental and their, social.
yeah. So here's something else that we're doing that's really cool. And I don't know how ubiquitous this is across the state. I'm pretty sure that I was told that we were the first one in Indiana to do this. But our police force, or a good part of it, across LaPorte County. So Michigan City Police, LaPorte, Westville had a couple of police officers there, the county, received critical crisis intervention training.
Okay.
So we've got police officers trained in how to respond to mental health crises.
Okay.
But getting more of them. I mean, if it was 100%, that's a start.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The one police officer said that about 60% of the calls they get aren't calls that are supposed to go to a police officer.
Right. Right.
So getting our cops trained for the level of work they need to appropriately for the work that they're being assigned.
Got
those
it.
60% of calls that shouldn't be a cop.
I would even like to see the 911 dispatcher be able to route to the right place.
That would be cool. I would like that. Yeah.
I mean, because
everyone dispatcher realizes that it's not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we need to add. We don't need to add new 3-digit numbers for people to call. Everyone knows 911. You learn 911. Just have the dispatcher know where to route. So is it something I need to send law enforcement, or do I need to send someone for behavioral health? And I think I think that's like one of the first places we should. And why don't we do it that way? Like, I know people want to keep having all the different lines.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's times where you call for like a wellness check, and you talk yourself out of it, because like, why would I want like some gendarme like coming up like
G.I. Joe showing up? G.I. Joe showing up,
knock on my door to be like, hey, are you okay? And it's like a depressed person that already certain feelings about the cops or something.
And the depressed person didn't even like the way that he knocked on the door and just started spazzing out. I mean, those are like, why not triage them and then route them where they need to go? And 911 operators are awesome, right? They get the information in and out, and it won't. I mean, they know whether to make it a firefighter call or a police call. What's one more to say? Firefighter, police, behavioral health. Mm-hmm. See, you should write that up.
I've got it recorded. I can use that. Should have had Otter going. So we need a third one. My third one is smart growth. So we know that we've got
smart growth. What's smart growth? What's smart growth?
So with the national park elevation, the change in the name of that, the development of the railroad, and how we're going to have a lot quicker commutes to Chicago, and then the disco coming down. We just need to be smart about that. So we know that Michigan City is growing. I know that the house prices doubled over the last year. So finding ways to make sure that Michigan City residents are at the front of the wave for that growth, and making sure that Michigan City residents are enjoying
the benefits,
all that business. So we've been working with the Brookings Institute. Our Economic Development Corporation's been working with the Brookings Institute. I think a couple other people, but Brookings Institute seems to be the top name on that list. To figure out ways to work against gentrification, because everything that I just listed about what's going on in Michigan City is lots of great reasons to suspect that we're going to have some pretty bad gentrification coming up. Finding out ways to make sure that Michigan City residents who have been here for forever, we know that when you've got 50% renters, that's going to be a challenge when it comes down to gentrification.
Because those owners, if it's not an apartment complex or a even duplexes, but people will want to sell and cash in on the rising home prices. Yeah, that is a little scary.
So we need to be smart about it. We need to make sure that Michigan City residents are included in it, and not just making a bunch of deals with breweries out of Chicago or something. That's supporting people we have here now.
Yeah. So I was just in Michigan City earlier this year for, did you know Dr. J was in your town?
Dr. J. I do not know a Dr. J.
You don't know Dr. J?
I don't know I might not know Dr. J.
Dr. J, the basketball star?
Oh, I don't know basketball stars. I have a master's degree in history. We are in different worlds.
Listen, bro, I have an IT degree and an MBA, but I know like the people that were playing before. Okay, so
I feel like MBA is something that we're just gonna walk right past right now, aren't we?
yeah, we're gonna let it go. We're gonna let it go. I mean, that's like, but see, it's same thing. Like my best friends were like, Britney Spears is coming, and I mean not Britney Spears, Beyonce is coming. Y'all want to go to Beyonce? And I'm like, no.
So you were hanging out with Dr. J.
Yeah. So in Michigan City, and one of the things. Okay, sorry. Back to Michigan City. I noticed that as I was driving in, I saw there was obviously a lot of road construction, especially up to the casino. But I didn't see. Are you guys using a lot of mixed resource buildings, like a commercial on the bottom and living at the top? Is that something that you may not know, but is that something that you guys are looking at?
Yeah, so there's some things that we're looking at for that. I keep going back to that train station, but that's really what we do here in Michigan City. So we've got the train station project. So they're putting in the double track. It's going to be faster. Part of that is also putting in a apartment building that's going to have some mixed use on the bottom and then apartments all the way up. And then there is a lot closer to the lake that is also going to be restaurants and a grocery store. We're going to get a grocery store downtown. That's one of those things. I think that's my secret fourth platform. Okay. Is that there's a conversation about this like luxury condos that are going up at the end of Franklin Street with good views of the lake, and they'll have like some hotel to it too. But one of the things that the Economic Development Corporation and the planning department is doing is figuring out incentives for a grocery store to go in around there. And we need it. I mean, right now, if I work downtown and I want to go get like some pasta salad for lunch, I have to drive 20 minutes. Wow. Insane. We need a grocery store downtown. Okay. So that I can
it's a food desert.
Pastas. Yeah.
It's a food desert.
I can spend $15 supporting a local business, and I do that too often. But maybe I want to support a local grocery store and get some pasta salad for lunch, you know?
And I think they also need to, spruce up Blue Chip. Oh yeah. It's seen better days.
It's seen better days. It's gotten down there. I think it's been around for 20 years. I think that was Mayor Matias was the one who got Blue Chip, and she was like late 90s. So yeah. One of the things I think they could do is just go smoke free, because Four Winds, 5 miles north in New Buffalo, is smoke free, and then Four Winds in South Bend is smoke free. I think if you go smoke free, your casinos are just automatically a little nicer.
That's possible, but I mean, they could still do like general upkeep and maintenance and replace the furniture.
Yeah,
I've had to stay.
You're getting ash holes in all your furniture because everyone's smoking.
Yeah.
That's a way to need to upkeep your furniture. Yeah.
I mean, I like the design of the casino. Like, I enjoy, like, because I've been there like literally twice the last 2 years, right? And and I like the way the design is, where if you want to be in the casino, you can be in the casino. If you're doing the convention, all of your convention stuff is totally separate. I love it. It's just like, okay, can we upgrade this bad? And they need some more restaurants in the casino or in the space, because they only have like that little deli.
Yeah, they do. And then they've got like the $1 Million Steakhouse.
Oh, where's the steakhouse?
Across you would never know to look there. And I don't know if the buffet completely died from COVID or if it's back yet.
I haven't seen a buffet, and I don't know, at this point, I think I'm a COVID scaredy cat of buffets at this point. Yeah.
I would kill for a good salad bar. I have been saying that for weeks, and I think I just need to find one.
Okay.
There's another restaurant there too, but it's like sport betting and it's smoky inside. I don't like smoky bars.
Okay. I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, and my sister worked there for a bit. So there's a couple restaurants in the casino, but there's some really good ones downtown Michigan City that are locally owned and have some cool owners that are worth supporting. Okay.
Well, the next time I'm there, I'm going to hit you up so that we could,
Please do. Oh my God. We're going to have so much trouble.
I love hitting Michigan City, because it's one of those places that when I was growing up and I hadn't heard of it until I became an adult. And I'm like, wait, we have a Michigan City? What? And then when I finally get up there because of politics, it's like, wow, this is a neat little town.
Yeah, it's a neat little town.
Yeah. I like it a
It's
lot.
the neighborhood I'm in is just a total beach neighborhood. The building next door is an Airbnb with
Hmm.
like a 30-person table and like a party roof up top.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think like living next to water changes who you are, like just
yeah,
rewires you like symbiotically.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
It's a
I'll
cool
be
town.
happy when the lake. I mean, I know I've been on the beach. It's nice, but I'll be glad when it becomes a destination spot, right? I mean, like
And
a
it already is. Like there are so many times where like I would get home from work and just go out to the beach because obviously I don't
yeah.
think I have to defend why I would go out to the beach for a second after work. But then I'd wander in to either feed my cat or like put my work clothes off. That's a weird way to say that. But going over the dune, coming back, there's always somebody on their cell phone being like, "Holy crap, I love it here! First time in Michigan City, and we're already coming back next year." And that's one of those moments where it's just I really want to run for city council and make it even better.
I love it. I think me and Nicole are going to try to like rent like an Airbnb or something and come hang out for a weekend. That's what we like to do. We like to get Airbnbs in different parts of the state and just because we live in two different cities and just go hang
Cool.
out. You know. So
Cool.
tell the people something about you that makes you the best candidate for city council in Michigan City.
So what makes me the best candidate for city council in Michigan City? Just as a young voice, I'm looking forward to the future,
Hmm.
and not stuck on some of the problems that I was thinking about 5 or 10 years ago. The voice I'll bring is the one that's thinking about what's the city going to look like in 10 years. But on top of that, too, is just my critical thinking skills. So
Oh, come on now.
we've talked about that background as a historian, that background as a librarian. I know what it means to find the right information and to work with it
Hmm.
rather than to trust your gut on some information that you think you heard. Um, yeah, I know how to find the right person to talk to and to get their opinion and to weigh it against other experts and not just um, trust my gut, my buddy for
Right.
something.
Right.
Like I know how to weigh people's advice against each other and think of their motives when they're saying it.
Hmm.
I think that's a skill that politicians learn on the
Pretty early.
job. That's
Yeah.
something I've got beforehand.
I love it. And I love the way you view things. You are not an inward person where it's me, I. You are an outward person. Like your answer of why I think I would be a good person for the role is because I know how to listen to people. I mean, that, sir, is an
Yeah,
amazing
yeah.
trait. Is an amazing trait, and the fact that you've developed it at such a young age, there are a lot of 60-year-olds that ain't got that. There are a lot of
Yeah.
and so hold on to that because that is a valuable tool that you have in your toolbox. Take it from an old lady. All right, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me. Coulter for City Council is my URL and my Facebook tagline, however that works. Yeah, we've got some upcoming events. I'm also the president of the Young Democrats. So if you're under
What?
35 and not everybody, well, for LaPorte County, excuse
Yes,
me.
I didn't know that.
Okay, sorry. Why do we put that at the last part of the show?
Hello, you must not know how much I love IDA, YDA. You must not know
That is so funny. Okay, cool. So we're getting that on its feet. I mean, we're like
IYD.
in the
Yeah.
process of getting it on its feet. So the steering committee made me president because I can talk and listen to people.
Okay.
And I've got vision. So I know that we're gonna put some cool events together. So we've got a kick off coming up. Excuse me. We don't have a date for that yet. That's how getting on its feet it is. Because we're busy. We're all getting Angie elected. We're getting me elected. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I'm loving all of that.
it's July. Yeah.
Well,
So
just so you know, no matter win or lose, whatever happens, I am going to be hunting you down to join Stonewall too. So,
Okay.
just know I'm coming. I'm coming
I-
for you.
you've got my contact information.
I really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't make me send you an invite. We're having a meeting. Will you come and talk to us?
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, yeah, because I think it's just so important to find these niche ways to get involved.
Yeah.
Like there is one Democratic group up here that I went to one of their events, and like there's nothing wrong with a room full of octogenarians who say the pledge and a prayer and then have a really bland meal. But if you're trying to get more 20-year-olds involved, that's going to scare them away.
Well, that's why we need more 20-year-olds in leadership roles. And that's why I love what, Ariel started and James Wells is picking up. That's why I support, IDA, because you guys, first of all, you let me hang out with you. I always hang out with the young Dems. I find the young Dems at French Lick. I find the young Dems at the HH dinner because they're fun. And, and I think when you have more young people in leadership roles, I also think you have to let them make decisions and make their mistakes so they can learn from them. If you prevent them from making the mistakes, how will they be the leaders of the future? A mistake isn't really a mistake. It's an opportunity to learn, right? And so that's why I am. So you're a young Dem. You're going to join Stonewall. I am just see, that's why I love it when y'all run for office. I find y'all after y'all run for office, but that's okay, because once I got you, I got you. I love it.
That's perfect. Yeah, you're right in the right spot to see through people too.
Yeah. Well, I always said this show, I start the show off with love. It's all about love. I'm not going to ask you anything that's going to embarrass you, because I feel like candidates are going to, good candidates are going to show and bad candidates are going to show. You know what I'm saying? So I give everybody a shot, and, just tell your story. And your story is fascinating. And the way you see the world is fascinating. And you're exactly what our party in our state needs. Young people who have a worldview and recognize that Indiana doesn't have to be in the space, in the state that it's in. It can be better because you've seen better.
Yeah. And we're going to make it better.
Absolutely.
Incredible.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I know me and Greg are going to talk for hours, but we're not going to do that to you guys tonight. Thank you so much for joining me, Greg. Don't hang up just yet. Guys, one of the things, you guys know I'm down with Stonewall, and in politics is my labor of love. But as you also know, my love labor is Trinity Haven. Trinity Haven is our only affirming LGBTQ plus residence in the entire state that looks out for our youth who are at risk of homelessness. I've been working on this project since 2019, and we want to show our young people who haven't seen a lot of love what love looks like by being the support, being the adults in the room, and showing that every young person, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender identity, queer status, whatever, they are loved and they are valued and they are worth giving time to. So that being said, we are having our third annual, I can't even remember anymore. We've done so many. Our third annual Homecoming Bash. And the theme is the best of Broadway. So get your Cats outfit out. Get your Hamilton outfit out. Come, get your Stomp outfit out, whatever it is, and get dressed up on September 9th at the Crane Bay Event Center here in Indianapolis. The tickets are on sale right now. I will include a link so that you guys can get the tickets, because look, it costs money to run the house. We have a house that houses 9 young people for 2 years. It costs money to have host homes. We have people around Marion County who donate a bedroom because they have extra space for 6 months at a time for young people who need something right away. It costs money. You got to buy food. We got to pay for the light bill. The kids are always on their phones. We got to pay for that high-speed internet, right? These are the things because we want to make sure that we're nurturing these young people. So, guys, please consider buying a ticket. Buy your ticket. Go, and it's going to be fun. Broadway, y'all. Broadway. All right, Greg, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, it's been fantastic chatting with y'all. We got shows lined up every day until the election. I only have one day that I'm taking off. I got to go to Little Rock for work on the 3rd. That's the week I won't be here. But after that, I've got everybody booked up. And we're going to talk to these candidates. I've got mayor candidates coming on, more city county council candidates, and clerks. Come on now. It's a lot of races that are happening. Municipals is where we build our bench. So learn about these candidates. Tune in so you can find out how you can support and help them. All right? Don't forget IDEA is coming up too. All right, I'll holler at y'all next time. Peace. Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.